Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, liberty and justice for all. Good evening, everyone, and welcome to February 7th Radnor Township Planning Commission meeting. My name is David Nat, and I am substituting as the chair for this meeting for Matt Golis, who has other things going on this evening. So as we first part of the agenda, I want to just discuss last meeting's minutes to see if everyone had a chance to review, see if anyone had any questions, and then if not, we voted into formally. So
I'll move to accept the minutes as presented.
we have any second?
I'll second.
All votes?
Aye.
Aye. Thank you all. Let it be submitted into the record. Second part of the meeting is that we're going to be discussing 236 North Aberdeen Avenue, which is a minor final subdivision plan. So do we have anyone representing the owner? Good evening. Good evening.
He is the owner.
Good evening. I'm Christy Flynn to talk about 236 North Aberdeen.
Perfect.
I hope we are going to have the screen available to us tonight.
Okay.
Excellent. I'm here this evening to request your recommendation for approval for the final minor subdivision approval of this project. You've seen it before. It is currently an existing single-family home on a lot on North Aberdeen at 236. And we are proposing to demolish that home and to construct a pair of twins. So 2 homes in the end from where we start now. We have presented before. We did have to get a variance for steep slopes from the zoning hearing board, which we did receive last month, and we are here now for your recommendation. I'd be happy to walk through review letters if you prefer, or if you'd like to start with comments, I would take your cue. I do have Chris Yan here with me to answer technical engineering questions if any of those arise.
Well, for the record, can you just summarize your project itself, and then from there we could probably just get into some of the more of the technical questions, since you have been in front of this board on several occasions.
Sure. So why don't I go to the plans then?
Yep.
There we go. Oh, thanks, Chris. Currently, there's an existing home that is over here on the western side of the property, and there's an existing drive that comes off of North Aberdeen to the parking pad in the rear. The slope is high at the street, low to the rear of the property. Just off of the property, there is a creek. And all of this would be demolished. You can see the steep slopes here that we requested and received the variance to disturb. So then once that existing home is removed, we would construct 2 new dwellings. They would be single-family, semi-detached, or twin homes, and they would comply with the ordinance. There are 2 waivers that we are asking for, and that would be for the not showing all of the existing features within 500 feet on a survey. We do have an aerial depicting those features. And the second is to allow for the driveways to be within 5 feet of the property line. They would be within 5 feet of the common property line, so they would be away from the existing neighbors' property lines. We have a buffer along the side here, as there's a single-family home here, and on the opposite side, there's an existing twin home. It's not much more complicated than that.
Okay, I appreciate it. Do we have any questions from the engineering staff? Do we have any questions from our fellow board members?
Question, I have a question. Just to clarify, the driveways are essentially attached to each other, correct? Or,
Essentially, there would be a dividing strip of probably a river rock
Okay.
between them, so they are separate, unique for each property, but exactly, they are adjacent to each other.
I believe from my recollection of other presentations here that one of your issues was trying to preserve parking space on the street. And by having the driveways closer together, that is affected in a positive way.
That's correct. I did bring a little markup if it's helpful to the group to demonstrate that. Now, this is not an engineering design. It's not been reviewed by your engineer, and it wouldn't comply anyway, but it's helpful for the discussion. So here you can see that this is the existing condition, and really there are 5 parking spaces that do not comply with your dimensions. So your dimensions for an on-street parking space are 8 feet wide by 22 feet deep for a parallel parking space. These don't comply with that, but it's how the sort of functions. You know, we live in this home, so I'm very familiar with how this actually works. So 2 cars can park here, and the reason that works is you have room with the driveway curb cut here and the driveway curb cut here to back into the space or get in and out of the space, if that makes sense. And then there's space for 3 cars there, going towards the intersection with Plant. If we were to comply with the ordinance, you would go from those 5 parking spaces to 2, because there would not be enough space for more than 1 car in between the driveways. And there would be space remaining there for 1 car, and there would not be space on that side of the driveway, because there's a neighbor's driveway directly adjacent to the property line on this side. And so the configuration that we are proposing with the driveways together preserves an additional parking space. You can fit 3 cars in that case, 2 on the west side and 1 on the east.
And because the existing has a driveway, it's not though you're sort of swapping out spaces, you are actually losing 2 in the net result.
That's true.
Okay.
But this is the better condition of the options that we have before
That's
us.
what I would-
Exactly.
Wanted to understand the full.
That's right. That's right.
And what about the setback from the street with the parking? How far back again will that be?
The garage will serve for the parking required for the homes, and the front yard setback is 25 feet. So in addition to the parking for the residents of the home, if they had guests,
Yeah.
they could park in the drive.
Gotcha, okay.
can you go back one drawing to where you had the 2 parking spots?
Ian, could you please zoom in a little, if you don't mind? A little more?
So in this drawing,
you.
the green, I can't read the letters, but that's the 5, that's the setback?
So what this would do would be to separate to comply with the ordinance, the garages would go on the outsides of the fronts of the homes.
Okay,
And so we estimate that by the time you deal with the radius that comes off of the driveways, you have about 28 feet between the 2 driveways.
okay,
And then you would end up
Not enough
with
room.
5 feet off of the
Mhm.
property line on this side here, and about the same on that side there.
okay. Thank you.
Any other questions from the committee? Do we have any public comment?
Hello, my name's Doug McCone. I live on Poplar Avenue, which is a couple of blocks away. It seems rather dense, but, you know, it would be very helpful if they could find a way to put the garage not in the front, but on the side or in the back. Is there some way that that could be accomplished? Because, you know, this is, in a way, it's going to be out of character to the community. And so, I would still prefer to see just a single building, but that's up to y'all. Thank you.
Thank you. I also received a letter from a Diane Engelbert, who lives at 263 North Aberdeen Avenue, and the letter was addressed on February 7th to Mr. Matt Golis, and I will read the letter. Dear Mr. Golis, I am writing this letter because I'm not able to attend the February 2nd, 2022 Planning Commission meeting. I would like to note some concerns about how new construction on a lot at 236 North Aberdeen Avenue will affect on-street parking. Parking on our street is very limited already. No one on the south side of the street has a driveway, so we all have to park on the street. Many times, those on the north side that do not have a driveway only park one car in it and park their other cars on the street. Reducing the parking will be a hardship for those of us who have no choice but to drive around looking for parking that has gotten more difficult to find. There simply are more cars here, and new construction on Aberdeen Terrace is only taking away some space. We would like to, We would like to request that parking at the top of the street not be reduced by more than one parking space. If possible, the best approach would be for the existing driveway to remain in place for possible side access to the front garages of the new twin building. We would also like to request that construction vehicles not take up any spots on the affected block of North Aberdeen. If you have any comment on this before your meeting, please leave a message at whatever. Thank you very much, Diane Engelbert. So, do we have any other questions or comments?
Well, you know, talking about parking, and I know that this has been done in the past, like Morningside Circle, South Devon Avenue. A lot of those homes share a driveway, and then they park on their lot. And some of them have garages, most of them don't. Did you look at sharing the driveway as an option?
Well, I would just point back to the first time I was here before you on this lot, probably maybe one or two of you were here at the time. But a long while ago, we were before you because I specifically sought a variance to allow for a new single-family home because of these concerns. Had the thought to put the garage in the back to be in character with the street, put the house on the same setback as the rest of the homes on the street, and share a driveway with access to parking in the rear, similar to how it is now. It would have been a little bit adjusted, but very similar. And sadly for me, that was not approved at the zoning hearing board, and the neighbors testified at that meeting that they preferred the twin home that was by right. And so that's what I'm here before you to ask for. And, you know, respectfully, people do not prefer the shared driveway. It's great if you have a great neighbor, and it's less great if you don't. And it's just not something that we would be interested in pursuing. But I am asking for that waiver because I am still keeping in mind sort of the overall benefit to the street that would create. And it's consistent with what else is on the street. Most of the driveways that do exist on the street are on the property lines as it is. So.
But right now with your design, is that there's not a way to basically tuck the garage behind
There's insufficient, there's a couple reasons.
the side?
There's insufficient side yard, but beyond that, there's a slope. And so in order to get the driveway to the back in a way that, it's just not really a feasible.
And think how much stormwater impervious surface that would add. Like, that's huge. And you have no way to get, you can see you can't fit a car on the side there.
Yeah, good point. Okay. All right. Would anyone like to make a motion?
Can't you reduce the width of the drive at the street just to taper it down? I mean, to kind of do.
Well,
Maybe
it-
Chris can address that?
It goes back to, in order to make that a functional driveway where a car could pull around that, it ends up pushing the house back further, which increases impervious and just sort of snowballs from there. And so this really is the, and I should go back to the.
I know, but this has the full width of the driveway going all the way to the street, can't we?
That's correct, because it's a relatively, it's not a huge front yard. It's not a situation where if you had a big front yard where you would just need, maybe you would think of like a rooster tail where you pulled out of your driveway and could pull out. There's not enough room for that front to back.
If a car is 18 feet long, you have to be outside of your driveway outside of your garage before you can make the turn. So the front end of the car would hit the garage. So you actually have to pull out and then make the turn. So by that point, you're almost at the street.
I can't see the dimensions on the plan. What is it?
Well, it's a 25-foot setback. Chris, do you want to point to the?
And a 19.5-foot width.
And then that width is matching the parking spaces in your ordinance.
Oh, thank you.
Do we have any more questions or comments? Nope. Do I hear a motion?
Mr. Nat, if I could, as part of the motion, would ask you to specifically note the two requests for waivers and the planning commission's thought on them for the minutes?
And you're referring to, just for the record, the waiver for 500 feet
And the driveway minimum distance?
and the driveway within the common property lines. Is that correct, Steve?
Yes, sir.
Okay, yes. So as part of the recommendation, can we include, what's the exact language, Steve?
Sorry, sir.
What's the exact language that we should be?
If you refer to my review letter in the first paragraph, it outlines the two waivers.
Okay, 1 second.
I guess it's the third paragraph on the first page.
Okay, so for the record, the applicant is proposing to demolish the existing residence, subdivide the property, and construct a new twin dwelling unit. The applicant appeared before the zoning board on the 15th of November, 2021. The applicant has requested a variance for the following: to permit the disturbance of steep slopes, and I can't read this. The applicant has indicated on the plans the following waivers are being requested. 1, existing principal buildings and their respective uses and driveways on the adjacent peripheral strip. And 2, a minimum distance of 5 feet shall be maintained between the driveway and the side lots. Oh, okay, so,
I'll move it correct.
yep, thank you.
I would move to approve the application, including the two waivers, one for existing principal buildings and structures within 500 feet of the existing building because of the aerial provided, and a waiver of the minimum distance of 5 feet between driveway and side lot lines.
And may I add, I apologize, one more, just a note that should comply with all requirements in the review letters from Gilmore and Gannett Fleming. Sorry about that. Because there are a couple items in Damon's that should be addressed, so just to comply with the review letter.
Do I need to start over, or can I just add that?
You could add that, sir, sorry.
And to comply with the request in the Gannett Fleming review letter dated January 28, 2022.
Do I hear a second?
Second.
All in favor? Thank you very much. So let's let the motion pass.
Thank you so much for your time this evening.
Thank you. Next on the agenda is old business, and with the wireless facility.
Why don't we go all opposed?
Oh, I think I thought we spoke about public hearing.
Mr. Chairman?
Yes, so we'd like to talk about old business, and with that, with regards to the wireless facilities ordinance.
Yes. You've been working on this wireless facilities ordinance since last summer, albeit off and on. Dan Cohen's office, a telecommunications expert on the municipal side from Pittsburgh, his office was responsible for preparing the ordinance, and we had at least 2 video chats with the gentleman from his office who was working with you to prepare the ordinance. The last time you saw this was probably a couple months ago. You made comments. Those comments, it's been represented to me, have been incorporated into the draft of the ordinance. The Board of Commissioners has reviewed it and authorized it to be advertised. It's back before you this evening, not necessarily for a formal review, but because the municipality's planning code and some case law under the planning code tells us that the Planning Commission needs to see the ordinance again after all the changes have been made. So it's been advertised for consideration by the Board of Commissioners on February 28th, and it's before you to meet that procedural requirement.
So what are you looking for from the commission?
If you see any big, major problems, it would probably be a good idea to bring them up. But absent that, if it's generally consistent with your discussions and the revisions you wanted, you can simply pass on this with no comment or recommend approval.
Okay. So, to my fellow members, has everyone had a chance to review? Does anyone see any issues or any variances or deviations from our prior review, our prior discussions? Let the record reflect there's no comment from the Planning Commission.
We will do that. Thank you very much, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you very much. New business? Do we have any new business?
Not from over on this side.
Okay, well, I would like to officially adjourn the meeting on this evening, February 7th, 2022. Thank you very much.